Well, it's like, how do you feel about the stimulus package? Do you think it's going to be beneficial to everybody? Do you think it is going to be a little bit underworded? Because I think, me and my fiance were talking, our hours got cut, but I mean, we're still able to survive. So we're talking about, a little bit of the money. If we do get it, give back, donate to somebody, like America's Hunger. I can't remember what that organization is that feeds Feeding America. But things like that, because we don't need it. So I'm thinking, man, there's going to be a lot more people out there that don't need it. But now I'm thinking there's a lot of people out there, like my friends, hours, like jobs got cut off. Like they have kids. Like I'm stressing out about them. I'm like, they really need the money,
Sure.
So I'm.
See, one more deep observation, and then I'll actually answer your question. Don't worry.
Right.
This is what the reason that people care now, and the reason that people want to see our government take action is, like we were saying, it impacts them. Right. People are getting laid off. They're hurting. The nice thing, and I feel for every single one of those people, but I'm in a very privileged position here. I still live at home. My dad's self-employed. My mom works at ISU, but as far as I know, we're doing just fine.
Good.
We're not at a position where we can't pay our rent. We're not at a position where we can't pay for food.
Right.
We're not at a bad position like what a lot of people are now. Right. And so when it actually impacts them, that's when people want to see action. But what I would like to see is everybody fighting for each other. I want to be able to fight for you as if what's impacting you is impacting me.
Right.
Right.
Agree.
And I feel for people being impacted by the coronavirus and being laid off from their jobs. I mean, it's a very scary time for people. So I'm very happy to see the stimulus package being passed. It was 96-0 in the Senate, which
is crazy.
Thank goodness.
That's insane.
People are coming together, but it's a 1,000-page bill. It's 1,000 pages. Gage, when we were talking about doing this podcast, how long do you think our messages would? Do you think it would fill up a whole page, like our messages trying to organize this podcast? Like maybe even a page, half a page?
Yeah.
It's like we organize this podcast in like half of a page, but our government can't write a bill that's less than 1,000 pages. What's in those 1,000 pages, right? I haven't read the bill. I'm sure that almost none of your viewers, if not any of your viewers, have actually read the bill. I'm sure that you haven't read the bill.
No, absolutely not.
Nobody has.
Have they even released the text at this point in time?
The text is here. We can read it. But who has time to read 1,000 pages?
Yeah, nobody. Who reads the terms and conditions? Nobody.
That's what in the legislative process. That's what we call an omnibus bill. So an omnibus bill isn't something that's pertaining to just one specific topic. It's not saying guns are hereby outlawed and that's it. That's the only legislation, right? You can do gun control legislation, but you add up. Oh. See, I started flailing my arms when I. Wait, was that a camera?
Yeah, it's all good, man.
Oh. Okay, wait. When you edit this, can you please just have that camera shot?
I will, just falling, bro. You got it.
Anyways, as I was talking about, so this legislation is what's called an omnibus legislation. So there's multiple different things in it that don't even relate to the coronavirus, right?
Right.
So we have money going to citizens, but also like people were criticizing Democrats by trying to put in legislation for like voter registration,
right?
Tons of different things, right? The problem is with legislation, it's not just our legislators sitting in a room writing bills. They hardly ever write the bills. It's typically interest groups or groups of people with the same interests. So they try. There's what's called a policy window of opportunity. Is like, for example, if you wanted to pass gun control legislation, a good time to do it would to be after like a mass shooting, right? When the public is enraged and they want to see support for this, there's a window of legislation where they want this legislation passed. And sadly, this windows typically open up after like national emergencies, like 9/11 was a huge policy window for legislation to get passed because the public wants to see it being passed. And so what interest groups and politicians want to do is they say, here's a really important thing for me. Like if you're a climate change activist group, you say they're going to pass a stimulus package. Let's try and get some wording in here that passes legislation for us, right?
Yes.
It's not just this coronavirus stimulus thing. It's a whole bunch of different interests coming in, and that's why we see 1,000-page bill. But this is how the one-party system works. Is sadly, this is how there are parties compromise. Is they say, you give me this, I'll give you this, right? And so you just see adding on and on and on and on different wordings of the bill, different things in the bill to actually try and get some sort of compromise, even if it doesn't have anything to do with the coronavirus. So that's, I mean, I haven't read the whole entire bill, and I don't know exactly what compromises our officials came to. I'm very happy that we passed something. It seemed, so as far as I know, every single adult American will be getting $1,200 in the mail that make less than 75,000.
And then it slowly drops off up to 99,000.
Yes, so that's good.
Yeah.
People need money right now. I don't know if $1,200 is going to cover it, but it's something at least.
Yeah, it's something.
They also offered support for small business and large businesses like airlines, cruise ships.
Which is really nice.
It's good, but at the same time, well, before different compromises were passed, like you said, I think the Treasury had like $500 billion to give out to different corporations, but they weren't going to tell anybody where that money was actually going until
Yeah.
the 6 months had passed,
Right.
which seems dangerous. And luckily, that legislation was moved out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, investing into companies and giving them money to save the companies is really good, but at the same time, we don't need to be bailing out Wall Street. We don't need to be bailing
Yes.
out major corporations. Corporations aren't people. We need to understand that corporations don't have feelings. They don't need food to survive. They don't need rent to survive. We shouldn't be necessarily bailing out corporations at this moment. We need to be bailing out the average worker. We need to be bailing out people who need money and who need finances to actually protect their livelihoods. So I'm really glad that at least something was passed. Could it have been better? Yes, but again, I'm just very glad that our government was able to compromise and find something to do for people.
Yep, I agree with. I'm interested to see how, because as a small business owner, I pay taxes, all that kind of stuff, and I'm interested to seeing about this loan thing. Right, like
Yeah.
I have a couple of weddings I've already called and refunded because of coronavirus. They can't have a wedding because of coronavirus, right?
Right.
And I'm like, man, I'm negative a couple G's.
Yeah.
You know, because I have to give everybody's money back. I have to do X, Y, Z. You know, especially investing in plane tickets and things like that. So it's like, I wonder how small of a business, because that will really tell me how our legislation really, not thinks overall, but like just kind of like,
Who they prioritize in a way.
yeah, and because like I'm not trying to be like, oh, me, but I'm like, how small would they be? I don't have any points. Like I'm like the smallest it gets. I'm
Yeah.
just a what do they call it? Not an LLC, but a sole proprietorship, which is like the smallest a business can be.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how kind of all this kind of
I
plays
think
out.
the very important thing to advocate for too is I know that they're giving grants to corporations and to companies and to small businesses. They're just going to give them money just straight up, like here's money as long as you keep. I think one of the things is you have to keep employees.
Yes,
Is you have to keep people working or
because I
something.
think that was their biggest problem, was they didn't want to just give them millions and millions of dollars just to fire their employees and pocket the
Which is great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. But at the same time, we don't want to give out high interest loans at this time. And it just doesn't, it seems like you're taking advantage of people if you're trying to give out high interest loans at this point, because people will be taking out loans to try and survive this. But trying to charge back massive amounts of interest and get people into debt or into a certain poverty cycle, it just seems not something that we need right now.